Hey, my name's Jared Moon, and I'm part of a group of underground athletes you've probably never even heard of before. Most of us don't even have gym memberships. We don't have every piece of equipment known to man, nor do we have a ton of time to train. And we don't need it because we're achieving amazing things without it. We are garage gym athletes, and these are our stories. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jared Moon here. Today with me is Ashley Hicks. How you doing, Ashley?
Good.
Glad to have you. She is making an appearance on the podcast. If you didn't know, you haven't gone all the way back in the Garage Gym Athlete seasons, or maybe you're not one of our athletes and you don't know, she's one of our coaches here at Into 3 Fitness. She's going to be joining us today and perhaps more often. And also, Joe, what's up?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
yeah,
hey, yeah.
He's here. He's here.
Just hanging out in the background.
Yeah, so we are here. We're going to be talking about a bunch of cool stuff today. Let me get started with Ashley here. So, normally we recap the week a little bit, things that we've been doing, gone over. I kind of want to throw that to you. How's training been? How's life been? How's fitting all that in with a baby, a young one in the mix? So just give me an update.
Yeah, so training's been good. I am doing 4 training sessions a week. That's my goal. And then if I get really, really crazy, I'll go for the 5th one and hit a Meet Yourself Saturday. But I've been doing like Murph at least once a quarter, or like once every every cycle that we do. And then training with the baby has been awesome. He sleeps like a champ. So he naps. I take my little monitor down to my little mini garage here in England, because that's not a real garage. Let's be for real. So
I've seen some pictures. I saw Scott post a picture of it the other day. I don't think I've ever seen like a real good shot of it. That's probably the best shot I've seen of it. It's an adequate amount of space. I mean, it's like as wide as a barbell, maybe a little bit wider, and that's all you really need.
It's basically the size of a Mini Cooper. That's what they drive there. Tiny cars.
You couldn't fit a real car into the garage. No offense to Mini Cooper drivers, but
you could not fit an American car. Let's just call it what it is. When we moved to Florida, we kind of narrowed it down to 2 houses, and one had an awesome 2-car garage, and one had a garage exactly like what you have now. And the house was way better. Price the same. House was way better. More land. Crappy garage. We went with a 2-car garage. On a much smaller plot of land. Worse interior features. But that was the only time that I've truly been like... Oh, and I think what actually got Emily was... There was like... I don't know why the realtor even told us, but there was like... He's like, yeah, we've had a real bad snake problem in the backyard, because it was like an acre of land, and she was immediately like, house is great, but no.
We're out.
Yeah, no, and especially not with young children. So, yeah. Well, that's cool. Have you had any workouts interrupted from the monitor, like him waking up and you having to like cut a workout short or anything?
When he was younger, yeah, most definitely. But now, like if he wakes up, because now I know he takes an 1.5 to 2 hour nap. So I have plenty of time to get my workout in. And if he I call it squawking, because he doesn't really cry. He sounds like a little pterodactyl. I've heard his screech. When he starts squawking, I'm like, you're fine. And he'll go back to sleep. He's fine. So
Nice. Well, that's great. That's good to know that you're rolling with the punches. And when does Scott fit in his workouts?
So Scott he's an early riser. So if he has to get up at 4 a.m., 3:30 a.m., he gets up, gets his workout in first thing. If not, he won't do it. So he knows that he has to do that. Plus he has like a morning routine that he gets up and does too prior to. So yeah, he's the early riser. He needs a lot less sleep than I do. He could run off of 6, maybe 5 hours of sleep, but I need a good solid 8 to 9 hours of sleep. So
that's what Emily tells me too. Yeah, when I was in the military, I definitely operated on 5 and 6 most of the time. Now that I'm out, it's 7 or 8. And Joe, what's your normal operating? I think you were 8 and now you've like transitioned.
I have a new normal. Yeah. My body's just cut off an hour of sleep. I don't know why. It's just rising an hour earlier, and my Whoop keeps on telling me, okay, you still need to have like an hour and a half more sleep. My body's just like, no, you're good at 7, like exactly 7. I'm waking up, and it's like, okay, I guess it's cool. I'm getting more productive, but it's just weird. I don't know. I don't understand it.
That's great, man. That's good to know. So
it's a good change.
Are you waking up naturally at the 7-hour mark? Like no alarm or anything?
Yeah, I never set an alarm ever, and I'm still waking up like right at 6 a.m.
No alarm life. That's awesome. I definitely wake up to an alarm, but I don't know if I need to. I'm going to try it. I'm going to challenge
myself. If you're consistent, you probably don't even need it.
Well, I think what happens, because I've like turned my alarm off a few times on accident, and I think I wake up about 15 to 20 minutes later than normal, than I would have wanted to wake up. But I got stuff to do. Joe's been cracking me up with this, like, I'm waking up an hour earlier and I'm like achieving all of my life goals. I just, it's like, yeah, man, that's great. I think
it's also better to wake up naturally at the end of your REM cycle versus getting it disrupted.
I know it's way better to not wake up to an alarm, but my kids wake up at 6 a.m. on the dot. I don't know where I went wrong. We did something wrong. I mean, to be honest, we put them to bed pretty early, so they're getting how much sleep they should. So that's why they're waking up at that time. It's not, we really can't expect them to sleep any later unless we put them to bed later. But yeah, they wake up at 6 a.m. pretty much on the dot. So if I want to do anything, I need to be out of bed by 5 before I'm feeding them breakfast and doing all the things that involve children. So except for Eleanor, she sleeps in a little bit later than that.
Peak sunlight time.
Yeah. All right, that's enough of that. Let's get into, well, this information is brought to you by blueberries, a delicious snack you can enjoy with anything and everything. The end. All right. Officially.
What's your favorite way to have blueberries, Ashley?
Oh, in a smoothie. You guys, smoothie.
You want to know what my kids like? They like eating frozen blueberries in a bowl
on that. With
a spoon. That's it. It's like I'm feeding them cereal, but it's just blueberries. And
Liz loves that.
I don't even fight them. I'm like, go for it. You're awesome. All right, let's get into the study here. So we're going to be talking about, the actual name of the study is Effect of Interset Strategies on Acute Resistance Training Performance and Physiological Responses, a Systematic Review. Sounds awesome. So we have previously talked about what a meta-analysis is in the podcast. So meta-analysis is where they take a lot of different parameters from a bunch of different studies and they kind of formulate their own studies, or maybe they throw in their own data. That's kind of what a meta-analysis is. This is a systematic review. Similar, they go look at a bunch of different studies and they throw some out. They have like all these parameters. They throw things out that don't meet their guidelines or criteria. They keep other things and, based off of what they're trying to find out. And so what you end up with in these systematic reviews is really cool, is essentially just like a bullet point list on a topic, of just a bunch of research papers. So in its entirety, if I were to link to every single study that is also, part of this systematic review, I think it was in total 26 different studies met all of their inclusion criteria. So we're talking about one study technically today, a systematic review, and there are even some further references I make on my own. So we're really closer to 30, 40 different studies we will inadvertently be referencing throughout the course of this podcast episode. Because everything we throw at you, is not just hearsay. It's from a study somewhere and part of the systematic review. So let me get into breaking it down a little bit. So like I said, they had 26 studies that met all of their inclusion criteria. They started with actually 396. Then after their screening process, it goes from screening down to eligibility and then to included. And so they have all these different reasons like, hey, it doesn't meet our methodological quality score, PEDRO scale. I don't even know what that is, guys, but it's some sort of like fancy chart that you have to meet. And so I don't know how exactly they determined what did or didn't meet their study. It didn't go into that, but they went through some rigorous screening to take it from 396 all the way down to 26 studies. And what we get into I'm going to start with a takeaway. So the takeaway for all the Garage Gym athletes out there listening, after we kind of go over each one of these, is just add some of these tools to your toolbox. Pick one, maybe two max. Don't just think that you have to be doing all of these things. We're going to tell you a couple of different strategies. Some you've probably heard of, some you haven't. So it'll be some things to do, one or two things not to do, and you can add this into your training. And remember, this is for interset periods. So in between resting in different sets. And I do want to say we already covered one when we went over the mind-muscle connection or visualization or something like that. One of the podcasts, I can't remember the number, Joe, but we talked about visualizing during the rest of, in between sets. So visualizing that next exercise, that's already one thing that you could add. And now here are some other things that you can do in these intra rest periods. Let's get into it. So I'm gonna go over each one of these guys, and then you guys can kind of chime in if you have any experience with it, follow-up questions, or anything like that. Sound good?
Yep.
Cool. So the first one is stretching. They had 7 studies that investigated stretching, and 2 found that antagonist stretching increased repetitions in the subsequent sets. So basically made you better. And antagonist stretching is stretching the opposite muscle. An example given, so stretching your hamstrings between sets if you're training your quads. So anything that kind of works in the opposite stretching of that muscle. You don't want to stretch the actual muscle that you're using. You want to stretch, the opposite. So if you bicep curl, stretch your triceps, so on and so forth. And they also found in the same review of stretching that static stretching was found to decrease velocity in one study, which is something we already went over, is like these long static stretches are bad. Don't do them. Now, have you guys ever done any antagonist stretching before, specifically during a workout?
Nope. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah. And I was really excited when we pulled this one up because I didn't know a lot of this stuff. And I didn't know, I'd never even heard of some of these things before. And to be honest, I'm not an expert in anything by any stretch of the imagination, but I've normally at least heard of something. I'm like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. I never looked into it too much just because this is the world I live in, but I had never heard of some of these things. So stretching, is it something you think you'll try?
I think it'd be hard to just for some things. So squats, what are you working? What's the antagonist stretch there?
Yeah, it sounds like you have to be more isolation. You'd have to be doing more isolation exercises for it to matter.
So maybe on the deadlift you could do quads because usually not using much quad on the deadlift. Pecs for your strict press, maybe. But either way,
yeah, I mean, if you're doing bench press, maybe you could do some back stretches.
Lats, so it's hard for more of functional movements.
Yeah, these compound movements. Yeah, because you don't want to okay, I'm squatting. I guess I'll do some overhead strict press in between my intra-rest periods. Well, that's not exactly what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, to be honest, it's a cool one. I wanted to share it because it's part of the systematic review, but I'm in the same boat as you, Joe. I don't think I will really give it a try. It gets a little too complex and confusing. And since most of the lifting and training that we do is very compound and functional.
Unless you're on shred.
Yeah.
BD has you doing some isolation stuff on shred. So
yeah, if you're on our shred track with BD, then possibly, look into that a little bit more because the science says that it can actually help you get better. So let's go to the next one. Heating and cooling. So 6 studies investigated heating and cooling during the interset period. And all 6 studies included cooling, and 3 studies also included heating. Let's see, the majority of these studies, cooling improved rep performance in men, but heating did not help. And 1 study with all female subjects, both heating and cooling of the palms improved rep performance in the bench press. So we got to talk about this one because what do you even mean by heating and cooling? I had to pull up a bunch of the other studies to kind of look at it. And it seems predominantly, Joe, and if you dove into anything further, or Ashley, if you did, it seems like they're primarily cooling their hands. Is what most of the research said is in between bench press repetitions, they would cool their hands off. So you actually have to have a cooler with ice. And because I actually read some of the parameters of these other studies, and then you would put your hands in the ice, cool them off. In some cases, up to 20 minutes. They did one study on rock climbers that I pulled up, and they would have them do some work, and then they'd ice from their shoulder all the way down to their fingertips. They would ice everything and do that for 20 full minutes and then have them like retest, and all the performance got better. Like there's a lot of research saying, hey, this cooling works. The mechanism behind it, I think, has something to do with how much heat you actually lose in your hands or from your hands. I'm not 100% sure behind the science on that one. And it wasn't greatly explained in here. It just kind of gives you what worked and didn't work. What are your guys' thoughts on that one?
I'm willing to try it. Oh, sorry, Joe.
No, I was going to say you go.
Yeah, no, I'm willing. That sounds really neat. Like, especially for movements like the bench press or strict press. Like I find the overhead press for me personally is super, like I've never been able to break triple digits. Like I get 97 pounds, 98 pounds. So if it's something like, I wonder if it would help for like 1 rep maxes, like a heavy load, or if it's just specifically to multiple reps.
Yeah, and that's what's cool about this systematic review is we could actually dive into any one of the topics we're talking about as a full podcast episode, because each one of them has, like I mentioned, 6 studies or 5 studies. So I didn't do a super deep dive on, like I said, the mechanism behind it. Like, why does cooling your hands off help so much? I don't know the answer to that question. I'll prep better next time if we cover something like that and try and get an answer to that. But it's something I'd be willing to try too, in the very same instance that you're talking about, actually. It's not something I would add to like my daily routine. That's going to take up way too much time to ice my hands in between every, I just could imagine like actually doing that, but I think I would definitely do it if there's any chance of increased performance on like 1 rep max day or fit week or something like that. It's definitely something I'm willing to try.
Yeah, I would definitely try it, but I think they would do kind of the opposite of what you're talking about, Ashley. So I would do it during interval stuff and like during my rest intervals, cool the hands. It's like I feel like if I'm going to get my hands really cold, I'm not going to want to do something on the barbell or do some pull-ups. I don't know, if certain things I feel like my grip would go, but it's something to try, and you'd have to try them off. But I was thinking of cooling your hands and your wrists, because maybe it can help lower your heart rate. I know back in high school, whenever it was like starting the season in August, it was hot, our coach would have us go over whenever we would, like during the water break, to run cold water on the back of our wrists, because there's a main vein there. And if you're cooling the blood in your vein, then it'll cool your body. So I think that's also part of it. So another thought, because then if you cool it if you do it while you're doing interval stuff and you're monitoring your heart rate, you can actually see if it's affected.
Yeah, and I could see it from that perspective for sure, because I know in the summertime, we've talked about this plenty on the podcast. My Murph times start to suck in Texas summer. I'm just way too hot. Like my body can't cool itself, and your performance decreases. So maybe it's as simple as that. But I just don't know why it's the hands. Is maybe like what you're saying, that there's a vein or an artery or something that. But it seems like if like, why not just cool your whole body? Is that too much?
Well, if you're doing it during a workout, you can't really jump in a tub.
You could jump in ice tub though, like no water. You could just jump in some ice and like cool off. It's too aggressive, right? It's too aggressive.
Yeah.
All right.
Always a little too aggressive.
Always going there. Okay, let's get to the next one. So next is aerobic exercise. So 5 studies examined aerobic exercise. The 3 found some improvements in reps performed, lower blood lactate levels, or lower RPE scores with aerobic exercise, and no studies found impaired performance. However, it should be noted that all of these studies tested very light to moderate intensity aerobic exercise. And that's pretty much it. So we've been seeing a lot of this pop up in research. It goes back to blood flow. I really think everything is going back to blood flow. If you are squatting and then you hop on the Airdyne for like a very light pedal, I'm not talking about anything serious, just moving the feet, or the rower, just spinning it for 2 to 3 minutes, you're getting more blood flow during that time frame. And so you're going to be better prepared for that next set, as opposed to it actually, some people might be like, oh, that's going to tire you out. And that doesn't really seem to be the case. Or even other further suggestions of like, hey, after your set, just walk around. I don't have a big gym to walk around in. I mean, I could go outside. So hopping on the Airdyne or the rower would be a lot easier for me. But this one seems really simple and something I'll probably start implementing. How about you guys?
I'm not hopping on the rower between squats. Ain't gonna happen.
It's a light row.
Walking around, I kind of do, but
Dude.
Yeah. Dude, yeah. How old
You going to give it a try, Ashley? I had to do it, man.
I already do it. Like, so I don't hop on the rower. I don't have a rower, unfortunately, or a bike yet. We're getting there. But I never sit in between. I can't. Like, I'm kind of weird. Like, after I get done with the set, I'm like counting down the rest, and sometimes the rest is way too long for me, and I'm like, I just want to hit another one. Let me just do this. So I'll just turn up the jams and like kind of dance in my little garage. So all my British neighbors think I'm really crazy.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's my aerobic movement.
Well, I think we're gonna actually get into some of that, and there's some other studies I actually want to cover. What you're talking about is what they would call like auto regulation for rest timing. And so your body knows how much you should rest more than me telling you to rest 3 minutes in between sets. Like, I might say 3 minutes in between sets based off of the research on the intensity that we're lifting at. But if your body's like recovered and is like, I'm ready to go, a lot of research is saying auto regulation is better than just resting for a set time period. So, and I think that's one of the things in here, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, I jumped in.
No. Like, I want to cover that one a lot deeper one day on the podcast, but that's just really cool cool research to look at. Now, the next one is massage and foam rolling. So all 4 studies saw decreases in rep performance with massage or foam rolling between sets. So this is one to not do. Pretty easy. Don't foam roll or do a massage type activity.
Somebody has a masseuse, way in there between.
Yeah, I mean, don't massage your muscles or anything. So there was no study that said that this is either like no effect or okay to do. All of them were like, don't do it, bad stuff. So that one's just pretty simple, and so I don't really need to ask you guys if you're going to start doing that. Don't do it. But how far do you think it goes? Like lacrosse ball. I've probably used a lacrosse ball in between sets before. Maybe that was a really bad idea.
I do during my warm-up sets. So as I start to add some weight, I might feel a little bit of, a pinch here or there, and I'll go smash it real quick as I'm increasing weight. But I think once I get up to, my 75 or above, I'm kind of set at where I'm at.
Mm.
All right, next, this one. I almost wanted to skip it. It's
glad you didn't.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Maybe you have something to say, but I just know I'm not going to be able to actually do this. The next one is vibration. So 3 studies investigated the use of vibration. All 3 found at least some benefits across a variety of measures, but one found a decrease in rep performance when the agonist muscle was targeted. So like holding a push-up position on a vibrating platform between sets of bench press. I've seen some of these like vibration pads and stuff. I've got to play around with them in different gyms and people's houses who, I've actually been to a couple of people's house who have that machine, and I don't know. I don't use it. I'm not ever going to buy one. I don't have access to something that's going to violently vibrate my entire body. So I can't use it, but it sounds like it could be beneficial. Joe, what do you have on vibration?
So I actually haven't seen these machines, and I'm not even sure if this might qualify as vibration, but a lot of times when we're doing like shorter sprints or like power stuff, like we're doing a ton of air squats or like the short bursts on the Airdyne or even like 30-second sprints running, I will sit down and like with my hands shake my quads, shake them for like 10 or 15 seconds to loosen them up. So I'm not stretching them, I'm not smashing them, but I'm shaking them to like loosen them up and I guess maybe get some more blood flow. And they're completely relaxed in between my sets, and then that loosens me up and helps me go again.
Yeah, I didn't think about it that way. I'd have to look further into these vibration studies, but I know the things I've seen, like the vibration machines, they're basically like you step on this pad. They're normally about, 3 feet by 2 feet or something like that. And they're handles or something. And it's just like, it's vibrating at an insane speed. Like you almost can't even see it if you're looking at the platform, and it vibrates you. It feels really crazy after you get off of them, but I would never purchase one. But what you do, I think I do stuff like that pretty frequently. I wonder if that qualifies. All right. Next, heart rate based intervals. So one study investigated heart rate-based intervals. It found that basing recovery times on individual heart rate recovery led to improved rep performance. So this is exactly what we were just talking about with Ashley. Let me see. primarily, yeah. So this is kind of the auto regulation, and we could dive a lot deeper on that. And I plan to later in a different podcast episode, but I guess I don't really need to ask Ashley. You kind of already do that, or you at least want to. Joe, what do you do with rest times, man? Are you a little more auto regulated, or you adhere to like, I got to rest this much time?
What do you mean?
Do you auto regulate, so only rest as much as you want, or do you rest how much time is like stated in the programming? Because we normally have like a rest time. We'll be like rest 2 minutes in between sets. Do you listen to that, or do you just go hit your next strength set whenever you feel like it?
Oh, I listen to it because I follow programs.
There you go. There you go. So both could be beneficial. It's not that one's bad and one's good. It's just this auto regulation idea is popping up more in a lot of strength research. So I'm very much like Joe. I just listen to the programming. 99% of the time I wrote it, so I'm going to do it.
I mean, there's a lot of times where during like, because it's just my pacing during like longer AMRAPs, I'll do something for a while, and then I know I'll hit a certain point in my heart rate, and then I'll stop to rest and then whenever I catch my breath or my heart rate might get to a certain point, I'll pick something back up and go again. But I'm not just like slugging through. I'll actually, so if that kind of counts.
I know when I'm doing more Metcon type stuff or interval, I will definitely adhere to the interval rest there no matter what, because I know there's a little bit more to that, making sure you're actually beyond recovered before you hit the next one. Strength, I can get a little antsy if I'm like, I'm fine, like let's go. And I might not adhere 100% of the time, but pretty close. It all depends on what we're doing, what the intention is.
So how does this relate to, because actually this is something programmed once in a while, the recovery breath work, how you do your 7-second exhales? Yeah,
so we started putting in recovery breath work into the programming kind of for this reason, it individualizes how much rest time there should be for that person. And that's why we do it. So quick explanation is, if we were to be running 1 minute on intervals, and then I say recover until you can do a 7-second exhale. So you would run a minute, say 80% effort, and then you would stand there and you would try and exhale for 7 seconds. And most people, like the first one, that might be real easy, but when you get like 7 intervals into something and you're like, okay, exhale 7 seconds, it might not even be possible. And so it takes you a long time to finally be able to exhale for 7 full seconds. And for someone who's really fit and can recover really fast, they might every single interval stop, 7-second exhale, stop, 7-second exhale, easy. So that's very tailored to them. Someone who's not in as good a shape but trying to do the same workout, they might be sitting there for 7 minutes trying to do one 7-second exhale. They finally get it, and then they start their next interval. So it really, that's what we're forcing people to do when we program that in, is like, okay, we're going to wait till you're recovered, not just like a random rest time for this interval. So good call, Joe. Good call. All right, posture-related position. One study looked at the effect of posture during the interset period. It found that when using a pretty intense protocol, which is 3 times 10 with 80% of 3-rep max for thrusters and deadlift, more work was performed and average heart rate was lower when sitting or lying down between sets rather than walking. I find this one controversial and awesome at the same time. So what it's saying, if you're doing something really intense, it is better to lay on your back than to worry to stand up or walk around, because you're going to recover faster. That makes sense. Like Joe and I talked about in a previous podcast, when your heart's not having to fight gravity, you're going to recover faster. But there's a part of me on the mental side that's like, why are you laying down in the middle of a workout? Like, there's that side to me. Like, I can only be so scientific. You know what I mean? Like, what's your take? I'll start with Ashley. What's your take on this?
I don't know if I could do it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I just imagine like going to, or like if I ever went back on base to work out or something and go to the bro room, just do a couple of these sets, and then all of a sudden I'm lying on the floor. I feel like people would just be like, yeah, with my arms spread out, like,
It's science, guys. It's science.
Gains. This is how you get gains.
Yeah. People would probably start checking on you in a public place. They'd be like, hey, you all right? No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Joe, what's your take on it, man?
My take is I actively do this.
You lay down. I love it.
It depends on the workout, so hear me out. So the sitting is for the higher intensity one. So whenever we do like the breathing ladders, I have my box like close behind me in between my breathing intervals, and I'll go back and I'll sit on my 20-inch box and I'll do my deep breaths with my hands on my knees so my lungs can expand, and I sit there and it helps my heart rate lower down because I'm sitting and doing my deep breaths. As far as the laying down, those go for the longer ones. So like when we had our 1,200 and 1,500 meter rowing repeats, you only have 2 minutes there to rest. And if I only have 2 minutes to rest, then I know I need to lower my heart rate as fast as possible or as much as possible. So I would go and I would lay down, but on my side. So I was kind of in the fetal position.
There you go.
Because it helps if you're on your side, your lungs can expand a little bit more.
So why, when you post pictures on Instagram, it's never any of that?
Well, because
I want to see you laying in the fetal position next to a rower.
Well, I'm gonna have to take a selfie and laying down.
And then I want you to do #It'sScience.
Yeah. Done. All right.
So my actual recommendation for this, because the data supports it, I think if you're getting away from training and more testing, if you're testing something or in a competition, this could be a really great strategy, because if I was in some sort of competition and I needed to recover faster than my competitor, I don't care if they want to judge me for laying on the floor, if it's going to actually help me recover faster and I have a limited time to recover. So that would probably be the most awkward time to use it, but also it's like a snake or like a honey badger playing dead or something. It's like, I finish and then lay down immediately. They're like, what's he doing? She's trying to mess with my mind. And so I would probably use it in competition, or if I was doing any sort of testing, like during a fit week, or if something was just a test and I wanted to have the best possible score, I would probably use this laying down technique, but not in my training on a weekly basis. That's just me. Okay. I'm not judging you.
I why are you doing that? Why are you working?
We didn't talk about this beforehand, so I was unaware that bomb was going to get dropped on me mid podcast. Okay, so I love this one: electromyostimulation, E-stim. You've probably seen a bunch of these devices. So one study investigated E-stim, and it found that low frequency stimulation on the quads between sets of knee extension neither improved nor harmed peak torque, maximal strength, or muscle activation. And the reason I really like this is because I've been to a bunch of different athlete camps where, what are the brands? There's like Mark Pro, and there's like Power Dot. There are a couple other, you guys have heard of these machines, right?
Yeah. And
I think they're fine for recovery. I think that they're great for recovery. I have a Mark Pro that I use for recovery sometimes if needed. But they would get into these really complex demonstrations of using an E-stim device connected to your quads and your hamstrings during squats, and then you'd have to do tempo squats, and my brain would hurt by the end of the demonstration. I'd be like, I would rather just squat and not forego the 1% improvement in my squat of trying to hook up to all these wires and do squats. But they were like, no, this is this you got to do it. No, you don't have to do it. Science says it doesn't really do anything for you. So I'm just glad that that's nail in the coffin. Don't do it. So 2 things not to do: don't hook a bunch of electrical stuff to yourself and start doing any exercise. I made that sound way worse than it is, but you know what I mean. And then also don't massage or foam roll in between exercises. All right. I think that's it. And my main takeaway was just do it. Do some of that stuff. Do you guys have any follow-ups from the study or anything else?
Don't think so. We kind of hit everything.
Perfect.
As we went through.
Then let's get into the topic. So we have Ashley on the podcast. Like I said, she'll probably be joining us in future episodes anyway, because she is part of the team. It just gets challenging because she lives, if we didn't mention in the beginning, I think we did. Yeah, she lives across the pond, and so it's hard to coordinate time sometimes.
You sound like you're from London.
Yeah. And next year, Joe, will be if Ashley's still there, we'll be
spread out the world.
Will I be the only one in America? It's going to be, I guess, Kyle, me and Kyle, but VD is in Japan. you're going somewhere else. I don't even remember where you're going. It's like a fake place, not even real.
Yeah.
And then Ashley will be in Europe. So man, I did not intend for this to happen, but it did. Anyway, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So Ashley's here. We're going to talk a little bit about postpartum fitness recovery, her story in general, because she has a really great story, and I think it could be really beneficial to everyone listening, and something that, you know, can be a resource that we could point people to later as well. And so Ashley, I'm going to kind of throw it to you from here. If you just kind of want to introduce us to your experience and story, and tell us all about it.
Yeah. So before I dive into more postpartum stuff, I'll actually talk about I had a fantastic pregnancy, and I was able to work out through most of that pregnancy. Obviously, I had to scale weight back. I had to scale down the amount of times that I was working out during the week as well. I could not do a lot of Meet Yourself Saturday stuff, especially after running got uncomfortable. By the end of my pregnancy, I was so over the rower. I just wanted to throw the thing across the wall, or biking. Because, you know, you've got your big belly, and so you're rowing with your legs out, and it's not ladylike, and it's hot, and there's no air condition in the UK. So you're just sweating profusely. But
I feel like your burpees were like strength workouts too, weren't they? Because you had to like do them on boxes, so you couldn't actually go down. You actually had to like descend and then push yourself up.
So we have these like little, do you know those little step things that they have in step class or whatever? Yeah. I would do a step with a mat on top, and that's where my belly would hit with my chest. So I didn't quite have to do as high of a box, which I was happy with. But man, getting back up, like I ended up having to step up. I don't think I ever jumped up towards the end there. So yeah, it was definitely a challenge, but no, I felt great. I moved, the week, 7 days prior to when I went into labor, I deadlifted 200 pounds and did the workout that was prescribed, and it was fantastic. So, and I felt fantastic, and I think it helped me through labor, and I was able to have a natural birth, and it was great. I squatted my kid out, and that was the biggest workout of my life. And then about 12 hours later is when I started having tightness in my chest, and I had no idea why. And I kept talking to the nurses, because they kind of tell you, you know, hey, watch out for blood clots, and sometimes you can throw a clot in your chest and stuff. So please let us know how you feel. So I just kept telling them, man, I just feel this weird ache in my chest. And now, with hindsight and looking back on it, that was the start of anxiety. And I had never felt anxiety in my life. So I had no idea the physical, the way that it could affect you physically. And so it started from that, and it just was, I think, fear of, you know, having this newborn and having to take care of him and keep him alive, you know. And even though you read all the books and you stay up and you ask so many questions, and you know, ask friends and, hey, what do I do about this, and this, it just doesn't quite prepare you for when you actually have the kid. And it's like, here you go, after 2 days of the hospital, take this home, feed it, change it, make sure it doesn't die.
There is no instruction manual.
No, not at all. So, of course, hormonally, it was an imbalance, and I was, you know, all over the place, emotions running. You know, I remember calling Emily a ton, FaceTiming, just help me. How do I do this? And I thought I was going to balance out. So I thought it was going to be, you know, a couple of weeks maybe, because I had heard that that was very common. But unfortunately, it got a lot worse. It got a lot worse. And physically, it took a good toll. Like I didn't want to eat right. I didn't want to get out of the house, but I didn't want to stay in the house. Like it was the weirdest thing. It's probably the darkest thing I've ever gone through. And it really tested my faith. It tested my relationship with Scott, who, by the way, had enormous support from his squadron. His squadron commander told him, hey, you're going to take the month off of December, and you're going to take care of your wife. And
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so They allowed him to stay home with me. And I will tell you, every single day, Scott made me push myself. And at the time, it felt scary and it wasn't cool. But Scott was like, we're going on a walk. We are going to do a body weight workout. We are going to go out for lunch, just things that are day-to-day living for most people. Man, it was a challenge. It was tough. But with the help of some doctors and some medication, that's when it started to get pretty bad. 2 months in, I finally caved and said, okay, let me see somebody. Let me get some help for this. And starting January 1st, so starting in December, I went and started seeing, to talk to someone. I had a counselor come to the house. And then in January, I had a friend who also had a baby about a week after I did, or 2 weeks maybe. And we both said, okay, every day or every week, we're going to work out 3 times a week. And we're going to hold each other accountable and we're going to do this. And I remember the first time, it was the first time ever that I did not want to work out. I was like, I don't want to do this at all. But because I knew she was coming and she knew I was going to be there, we both showed up. And she and I crushed the month of January, and I started to see and feel better. Like the mental fog was going. Now, obviously medication can help too, but I truly believe that because I was moving and doing something that my body wanted to do, just my mind could not grasp that, I guess, that I started seeing improvement. And then I started in February and March really focusing on my nutrition. And cutting out a lot of bad things that I was eating that I kept chalking it up to, oh, I'm breastfeeding, it's fine, I'll be fine. And once I started dialing in my nutrition as well as getting workouts in, man, it made a world of difference. And I can tell you that, with the help and support of family and friends and the community that we have here, just doing the workouts and people cheering you on, it has helped me tremendously. And I can honestly say that I feel 100%, and it's been great. It's been a big learning process. So
yeah. So some questions that come to mind. Well, first clarification. So would you say at the lowest point it was just full blown depression at that point?
Yeah, it was depression, and it was at the lowest point. I would say it was very, very physical. It was like this dark presence.
So some real physical feelings of anxiety and mental depression going on.
Yeah, I had a voice in my head at one point that was saying, "Jump out the window." I remember just being like, "Man," I knew I wouldn't act upon it. But I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, I've never felt like this before. So yeah, it was that. And then as well as, it was really physically hard on my body. The night that we decided that we needed help from doctors, I was in the fetal position on my floor, grabbing a pillow, just screaming into the pillow because Scott had gone on a run. Mm-hmm. And had an attack, and I'm just screaming into this pillow because it's the only thing that made me feel safe. And then I had enough sense to come to after my attack to call a friend, and she came and she just held me while I just cried on her for, it felt like forever, but she was there for me and sat with me until Scott came back. And that's when Scott was like, we're doing something about this today. We're going to change. We need some help. So.
Well, it sounds like you have phenomenal support network and a lot of things in your brain, call a friend, those were good triggers that you acted on. I guess one question I have, so it sounds like Scott pushed you. I've probably only hit, and the reason I was asking if you'd call it depression is because I feel like I've probably only hit around that point coupled with an anxiety maybe one time in my life. And I'm not trying to compare it to what you went through at all, just also sharing my story is I was in the military and working really hard, sleeping very little, and then also trying to get Into 3 Fitness off the ground. It was making for 16-hour work days. I was launching a product. like doing all these things at the same time. And I started to get these ridiculously bad, like tension headaches. It felt like someone was squeezing my head, and like I got some of the anxiety stuff that you're talking about. And I think fitness helped me pull through that as well. But I found the hardest part, and I guess the question I want to ask you is, so Scott pushed you to do the exercise. And I think that's the hardest part for anyone dealing with anything like this, is like, you have no drive or desire to do something that you even love. Like you just is not there. So like, how did you deal with that? How did you like take those step forwards to force yourself, or was it literally just Scott like being your coach? Like, how did you, because we know that like if you can dial in your nutrition and you start moving, things are going to get better. However slowly, they will get better. But like, how did you just start to push yourself to do it?
Yeah, so I would say it was, Scott would challenge me, and he was my rock through that whole entire thing. So he would say, okay, we're going to go outside. And I would, I'd give him kind of an excuse of some sort that would just say, you know what, I don't really feel like doing this right now. It's like, no, we're going to go on a walk. And inevitably, I always felt better. And it always helped. So I don't know why, again, I mentally was fighting against that. So it was almost like it was all mental. And of course, there were some physical parameters in that too. But then I think it was knowing that I, exactly what you said, like I knew that I loved this. I knew that I loved to do this. And so I kept thinking, okay, if I get back into this, hopefully this is going to, be something that I love to do again. And so that, I think at the end of the day, is what kind of pushed me to go back towards working out, as well as having my friend, Olivia, who was like, hey, I need help too. I want to get back to moving my body again. And, so yeah, but I will say Scott was the biggest help for me, definitely. And I feel like he knew what I needed. And it was awesome that he was so patient with me through this whole thing. And, I can't imagine how hard it must have been for him to see me at a low point like that. And then
Are we cut?
I think she moved around too much.
Yeah, we'll keep it recording. Might have to cut this out though.
Just bent over doing something, moving computers around.
It looks like she sees something, and then
she saw a ghost.
And then it cut out.
It looks like she sees a ghost.
Yeah, trying to look at the reflection on her glasses. Hopefully she comes back.
Face. I think it's the TV. There's not a picture. Well, I see a blue face.
I wonder if her... Hold on, let's be really quiet for a second so you know where to find this to edit it out. And she's gone. All right, I'll just leave it recording because it's easier to not splice it all together. So...
Because, yeah.
If she can come back. I think it looks like she was trying to get a power cord, and I think her computer may have died, so let's see. Wait, there she is. What happened?
So it was, for some reason, I fell off our Wi-Fi, and then my computer was dying, like super fast. So that's why I was walking up the stairs with the computer trying to get my power cord.
You're in like fancy mode right now.
It's pretty cool.
Your background's blurred, and
that's got to be like a setting. That's awesome.
It is.
Did you pause it? I'm so sorry.
No, we're still recording, but Joe can cut it out.
Oh wait, that's right.
What?
I'd blur my background, but it's just red.
Yeah. It doesn't matter as much for you. Okay, so we were at. You're kind of talking about Scott being that support network that you needed. Trying to think of how we can transition back into it.
Yeah. Do you want me to just kind of start over and then he can cut that?
Yeah, I mean, you could start. I would just start talking about Scott's role again, and then we can transition from there.
Sounds
See what
good.
happens.
All right. Yeah. So Scott definitely helped me out with a lot of, just by pushing me. I think he was very patient with me throughout everything, which was huge. And I can only imagine how hard it is to watch someone that you love, that you care about, go through something like I went through, and knowing what to do. But he had a peace about him, and I don't know if the Lord just kind of guided him and just said, hey, this is what Ashley needs, kind of thing, because he was the strong man that I needed to say, hey, we're going to try this, we're going to do this. But at the same time, it was very patient. So even if I kind of gave him some pushback on it, he didn't quite take no for the answer, because I think at the end of the day, he knew that I needed to be pushed. And that's how I've kind of always worked. I liked to be pushed. I like to be pushed to try new things and do new things. And he did a great job of balancing being patient with me and being loving and tender, as well as, hey, let's get this started, because I know you love to do this. And once you get these workouts in, you're going to start feeling a lot better. So
that's awesome. Yeah, Scott's a good dude of people in this world who I highly respect. It's a pretty short list. He's up on that list, so I'm really glad that that's the guy you have to help you through this. Now, I guess my another question I have would be, you finally decided, and it took you some time to get help from a professional, and I think that a lot of people mistakenly view that as a bad thing, and so they delay it. That may have even been why you delayed it. You're like, I'm not at that level, or I don't need it. I dropped that mindset a long time ago, because I've seen a lot of people go through stuff like this, and I almost wish I could convince people to go see someone right away, but it's always hard because there's always some stigma you got from childhood or TV or something that's holding you back. So why do you think it took you a while to seek out that help, and how much do you think it helped once you finally did it?
So I know the first thing for me was, so base is about a 25-minute drive from where we live, 25 to 30 minutes. And again, I didn't really want to go out of the house. So the thought of driving 25 to 30 minutes to go get help stressed me out even more. So that was kind of the start of it. And then I started talking to people. I reached out to your wife, Emily, and I started asking some people who had gone through it that had stated, some people need medication for this, and it's okay. And I think it was also, for me, I've always kind of healed my body through food, that's how I started my whole nutrition journey. And so I was like, medication is bad. Medication is bad. I don't need that. I can do this myself. And it was me being stubborn about it. It really was, until I hit that low point. And then when the doctor said, I want to start you at a super low dosage, and then we're going to go up from there and work it up. And then, that's literally why I did not do it. It was more of, it stressed me out to think to drive and go talk to somebody. And then that's the other thing too, is that person doesn't really know you. That person doesn't really know your story, but that should not prevent you from doing that. They are there. That's what they're there for. That's their job. They're medical professionals that that see these things day to day. Again, like you said, you've seen it. I had never been around people or witnessed the kind of anxiety and depression that I had gone through. So this was all a new world to me. And then I reached out to a Christian counselor just because of my faith and my beliefs and my backgrounds. And I will say that reaching out to somebody that kind of connects with you on top of the medical professional definitely helped, because he was able to have a different perspective than just the medical side. Even though he was very well versed in all of that, he had sheets for me to recognize, okay, this is what I'm going through now. I need to take a few breaths. This is what I'm doing now, I need to, like, one of the coolest things I remember is he said, when you are having that anxiety and your mind is just racing and it's going, don't try to shut it off. He said, let it go through, and kind of what you do in a meditation, where if your thoughts are kind of running, you kind of let it go through your head. You're not trying to prevent it. The exact same thing. And I remember hearing him say that, and I'm going, man, that sounds so dumb. But then the moment I tried it, holy cow, it helped significantly. And I have always kind of written off kind of meditation, like, oh, I read my Bible, I get my own quiet time, that's good. Meditation was huge for me, huge. So sorry, I kind of rambled there, but
no, I think, well, first off, I do think anyone with any type of religious background, primarily a Christian background, I have seen people having a problem with meditation to some degree, like thinking it's just, it's like different, it's like, it's almost like a workout for your brain. That's how I had to start viewing it at first when I first started doing that and breathing exercises and stuff, is like, it's way more of like, it's just like mental fitness, it's like a different category, in and of itself. And I think it could be really beneficial. And I think it's really important that you did what you did. And I'm glad that you had the support network that you had. I mean, I talk about this in being a coach all the time, is that I'm a coach. We're all coaches. Like, we coach, and we coach in the right parameters for programming, for nutrition, for fitness. We will give some mobility advice, and things like that. But once we get outside of our lane, you should be referring that person somewhere else. If they're injured and they need to see a physical therapist, don't be afraid to say that, because you're not one. Don't try to take on that role. If they are looking for, quote, therapy, you're not a trained therapist either. Like, you are there for fitness. You're a fitness coach. And that's kind of my mindset with this stuff. And that's why if I see it in friends or family, I'm never going to be the guy who's like, just tough it out, like, you'll be all right. Like, I know immediately, like, this is not my lane. There are things going on I don't fully understand. Like, how about I can help you and we can go see someone who knows how to figure this out. I think that's just a really, really strong takeaway for anybody listening, either going through it or knowing someone going through similar stuff. All right. Is there anything I missed, Ashley? Anything else you wanted to cover before we transition?
No. I just want to, I guess, say thank you to our community as well, because there were people in our community that also reached out to me and really encouraged me and motivated me. And we've got a really good group of people that we work out with, that we coach, that we do. So if you're a part of the Garage Gym athlete community, just know that there are people that, they've never even met you before, but they're on your side and they're rooting for you. So I think it's really awesome.
Me too. Awesome. Well, let's get into this week's workout. We'll transition here over to Patriot, the workout. So I had Satema on the podcast, Better Humanology podcast, a long time ago. He dropped this workout on me. It's now Meet Yourself Saturday workout. 30-minute time cap, 100 clean and jerks at 135 pounds or 95 pounds for females, and you can go down from there. So the heaviest is 135. If you want to use a barbell or an empty barbell or anything else, you really can pick the weight. Then 100 pull-ups. I think, he said you can kip, strict, whatever you want. Any way you can get them done. And you can also partition it any way you want. There's that 30-minute time cap. Then I added, wasn't him, it was a bonus, after you finish, to do 62 calories on the rower or the Airdyne, if you have one, as a cash out as fast as possible. So that is the workout. It is pretty awful. Like, who's done it? Has everyone done it? Yep.
Yeah.
It is not fun. I've actually had some Garage Gym athletes come over to the house and do it in groups of like 5 or 6 before. Not a great one. It is a great one, but also not a great one. Like, high rep clean and jerks, not fun. Like, not. Anyway, I'll stop saying not fun, and we'll get to some tips, strategies. Joe, let's start with you, man. What do you have for getting through this workout?
So I believe for the cap or the Airdyne, you no matter what, you go to the 30-minute cap, and like, if you finish at 25 minutes, you rest until 30, and then you do the cash out. I think that's how we had it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how we did it. Yep.
But for the clean and jerks and pull-ups, I broke mine up to 10 and 10 because I just like being efficient like that. but also, and you just need to break it up for either muscle fatigue and whatnot. But clean and jerks are definitely going to get your heart rate up because it's a lot of movement going on. And I would also drop it from the top versus like lowering it down. So if you can drop it. Some people don't like that though. And one of the points that I made was use the pull-ups to lower your heart rate, which Ashley, how do you feel about that?
I think that's a load of crock.
So
strict pull-ups lower my heart rate. I know that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the point is that for the clean and jerk, it's such a powerful movement. You really want to focus on your hip power and driving the bar up to your shoulders and then from your shoulders up. So especially on the jerk part, so that you're not fatiguing your shoulders. And then you get to the pull-ups, and unless like going from clean and jerks to pull-ups, kipping and butterfly, you're still going to be keeping your heart rate up because of the kipping. So if you can go not full strict, but like a half kip, a small kip, and break those up into 2 sets of 5, then that might help balance out your heart rate so that you can go jump back to clean and jerks and do 10 real quick. That's how I kind of went about mine.
So 10 rounds of 10 and 10 is what you did. You stuck to that?
Yep.
How did you find that? Did you find it challenging, or was that like good?
Oh, it was definitely awful. I got to like, I started with clean and jerks and I got to number 7. And I was like, whoa, this is not going to be cool.
Yeah.
Because you have to keep moving because you're still watching the time and going, okay, I need to keep my pace so that, I guess you're hitting each set within 3 minutes every single time. And just keeping your eye on it was, the clean and jerks that's really where you slow down a lot.
Yeah, the clean and jerks start to suck really fast. Ashley, any tips, tricks, strategies, ideas?
I too went out the gate and decided to go 10 and 10, but I had to go a little less. I think I broke them up in 5s. I almost time capped. I remember the first time I did this, but my tip would be, so going to singles was, exactly what I had to do towards the end. But if I had a goal, so like I'm just going to keep using the 10 and 10 cleans, then I singled out, if you will, like what I mean, pick the bar up, jerked it over my head, drop, that's a single, kept doing it until I reached the 10th rep. And then I was able to shake it out, kind of breathe a little before I got on the bar to do pull-ups. But the thing that helped me was if I could break up my clean and jerks, like touch and go for 3 reps or 2 reps, shake it out, grab it again, kind of do that. Towards the beginning, I was able to do it under the time cap. So that's what I would suggest.
Well, I was way less intelligent than both of you and started with 20 and 20.
Oh, God.
And I was like, I'll just knock this out in 5 rounds. And it ended up being like a descending, like, okay, 20, 20, 15, 15, 10, 10. Like I went down like that. But it was bad. It was really bad. And I think the only, I'll take it from, since you guys got pretty tactical there, I'll take it from like a mental toughness standpoint. I do think that high rep clean and jerks that are challenging for you are a great magnifying glass on your mental toughness in fitness. Just because of how crappy, like it gets your heart rate elevated. It's a technical movement. It's hard to do. So I say go into that workout with some sort of rep minimum. That's what I do anytime I'm walking into a workout that has a lot of clean and jerks in it, like this, which is not very often. We don't actually program a lot of that stuff into Garage Gym Athlete, but I go in like I will not do anything fewer than 3 reps, meaning like not dropping. Like I have to do 3 reps, then I'm allowed to drop, reset, shake it out or whatever. And that's typically what I go in to and try to stick to the entire time, is having some sort of minimum where my hands don't leave the bar and I'm doing, at least 3 every time, at least 2 every time, something like that. I think that could elevate the workout in the mental toughness category a little bit more. And probably, I don't think that's a tip or a strategy. That's like, how can I make this suck a little bit more is what I just added onto that. But I do think that's something people could try. And it might make you do the workout a little bit faster too.
It's called a Jaredism.
Yeah. Yeah. Jaredism. So I know personally I can get in some pretty like, let's call it lackadaisical pacing if I just like allow myself to rest between singles. Because like I caught myself, I used to do this with burpees. When workouts would have a lot of burpees, I would do like 5 burpees and then I'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm pacing. and then I'd be resting. I'm like, why are you resting? Like, you could probably at least do one more burpee right now. And so I have to pay attention to those things. Like, I try to justify it from like I'm pacing standpoint, but there's still something left in the tank there. So I know I got to push myself. It's a fine line in these Meet Yourself Saturday workouts. In traditional training, pacing, legit, do it. Joe's the pacing master. Like, I'm not that great at pacing in workouts like this. I'm not the best at it. All right.
Yeah, I got to keep moving.
All right, that's the Workout Patriot this week. Now, since I have both of you here, I'll ask for a reason for each one of you. We'll start with Ashley, ladies first. If someone's not somehow listening to this podcast and they're not signed up for Garage Gym Athlete membership or free trial, they haven't at least tried it yet, why would you suggest they do that?
I suggest they do that just because I'm just going to piggyback on what I said. We have some great people that are in this community. And not just that, but the programming is fantastic. I have personally seen results and hopped on and stayed on, and then decided, hey, I want to keep going and coach and keep trucking along with this journey. But yeah, it's awesome because if you got a garage and you've got some equipment and you need to kind of hone in on your training, hey, we've got that taken care of for you. So why not jump on this bandwagon?
Perfect. Joe.
Come suffer with us.
The way you said it too, it's perfect. It makes everyone want to do it.
Everyone's doing the same workout as you are, so just come jump on, and you can vent and reflect together.
There it is. All right, I don't have anything else. Ashley, thanks for sharing your story. It was really great, and I had a fun time being a little bit bigger team. The wolf pack has grown by. Okay, Joe, I won't go into my wolf pack speech, but thanks to everybody for making it to the end of the podcast. We will catch you guys next week. Peace out. Thanks for listening to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.